thriving, not just surviving. Today is going to be a very interesting show. Now, it's funny because I feel like I say that every single day, but today is going to be kind of a really interesting hodgepodge of everything that has kind of coalesced into this moment. And the reason why I want to specifically highlight what I'm talking about in today's live stream, which is the psychology behind MAGA, behind trolling, behind the sophistry and the sadism that comes along with trying to promote liberal tears, is because this is so prolific in our culture that this needs to be fought against aggressively. And you'll learn, or you may understand a little bit more of what I mean as time goes on in the live stream, because we're going to be talking and breaking down a lot of stuff. It intertwines current events as well as psychological concepts, and this is probably going to be one of my best live streams to date. And we're going to see live examples in the chat because there's going to be people coming in here and just being obnoxious for the purpose of it, because that's how the internet works. So we're going to be talking about all of that, so make sure to send some likes. I don't see anyone that has jumped in here yet, but sometimes the algorithm lags, so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, let me turn up the brightness, hold on. Alrighty. Who knows if even people have jumped in here? It shows one person. I wonder if that one person is me. That would be very interesting if that's the case. So anyway, give me just a moment to get my bearings here. And if you're watching this after the live stream has been posted, guess what? You're secretly my favorite. So anyway, is there anyone here in the chat? Cool Kells, hello! Okay, we've officially launched and we've officially started. So apologize for repeating myself, but good morning, beautiful people. Hope you all are thriving, not just surviving. Today we're going to be talking a lot about the psychology behind MAGA, because this is something that is intertwining current events with the trolling and Donald Trump's behavior just in general. But we're also going to be combining it with the phenomenon we see online, with the proliferation of bots, right-leaning accounts that spam things, or just in general people's behavior, because there's a lot of far right-wing accounts that just purposely troll for the purpose of trolling and being annoying. And it's that they have a dismissal of a common good. They don't seem to care about being empathetic. And we're going to be talking about how that behavior is intertwined with politics. And we're going to be talking about the proliferation of bots and how robots, programmed trolling accounts have intertwined with our political discourse, and also maybe destabilized how we communicate with each other online. So we're going to be talking a lot about so many different things, and so I appreciate every single one of you. We are going to start out with some current events, and I want to specifically highlight something we talked a little bit about yesterday. But before I get into that example, I want to talk about this phenomenon. Have you all encountered when people will say something rude, disgusting, mean, maybe it's just downright prejudice, and then they'll say it, and then you're kind of outraged by it, a little bit shocked, and then they'll go, I'm only joking. I'm only joking. Have y'all encountered that? If you have, then please say yes or no in the chat. Have y'all encountered that? Where people say that they're joking, but you can clearly tell that they're not. They're just saying that because they want to avoid accountability. Have y'all encountered that? Because that is a perfect example of today's trolling, and especially within our political discourse. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is I'm going to connect it to our president. There are a lot of ways that Trump tries to avoid accountability by simply passing it off, or his press secretary passing it off as, oh, it was just a joke. Oh my God, it was just a joke. I was only joking. It was just meant to be funny. You want to give me, you want some examples? Here, I'll give you all some examples here. So you all remember when Trump was like, saying that he wanted Greenland. He was ramping up threats saying that he wanted to annex Greenland or annex Canada as a state. That's a perfect example. He was saying like, oh, I'm going to do it, and I'm thinking about it, and then it was like his sycophants were saying, he's only joking, he's just being hyperbolic, he's just trying to be funny, or he's not actually serious, or, you can't take a joke. Those exact things, where it's always just trying to be provocative for the purpose of being shocking. And as we saw recently, Trump tried to literally acquire Greenland, and then the EU and other countries were like, absolutely not. We will find ways to stop that. Oh, C-Bar, thanks for the super chat. Thanks for the great info. So you all know the phenomenon of when someone says that something's shocking, rude, disgusting, prejudicial, and then they say that they're joking. You all know that concept? See, it's something that trolls do quite a lot. And we already have some trolls in here. Raise your hand if you're one of them. You know exactly who you are. The purpose of trying to be constantly like nagging. And a lot of these trolls will often say like, oh, I'm only joking. But that's a way to avoid accountability. Or they're trying to like, oh, I'm not being mean. I'm just joking. I'm just trying to be funny. I'm just trying to play around. And this method has been really popularized by Trump and Trumpism, MAGA in general. And this has really affected the way that Americans communicate, specifically within our political discourse. And I want to talk about that in addition to how AI and bot farms have really amplified this division and how it has really affected online discourse for all people, but especially amongst political topics. And as someone who covers journalistic content, current events, I want to tie everything together. Now, you might view my live stream as being all over the place today. That is very fair if you view that way. But I'm also going to be tying in so many different aspects. So before you try to like maybe scroll away or say you don't understand, just listen. For many people, tap the screen, share the live. If you enjoy this content, please turn on the notifications when I go live, because we're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. So you all know the psychology behind when people say that they're joking when they aren't. People who often say that they're joking when they aren't use this as a defense mechanism to avoid accountability for mean, manipulative, narcissistic behaviors, which allows them to express aggression while maintaining a nice persona. It's like the schoolyard bully, where they will say something nasty and rude, and they'll be like, oh, I'm only joking. They're testing the limits on how much they can get away with, how much you can get away with. And it's the same way with Trump. He'll say outlandish things about the 2020 election. He is, as you all saw, and then he was like, he would kind of stop talking about it. Well, recently, his DOJ, Department of Justice, raided the Fulton County elections office because he still can't get over that. So for all of his sycophants that say like, oh, we obviously know that he lost, blah, blah, blah. No, he doesn't believe that. He's not joking. He's not joking when he says he wants Canada to become a state. You all remember that? He would put out these things trolling, but like also he's testing the waters to see how much he can get away with. It's a classic tactic of dictators, wannabe authoritarians, or Trump joking about being a dictator. He's like, I don't know, maybe some people would like being a dictator. Do you all remember that Truth Social post? He'd say, maybe actually some people might like it. Some people say that it's great. He's testing the waters to see how much he can get away with. Or like this post, Truth Social wise. Many people in Canada love being the 51st state. They love the idea the United States can no longer suffer under our trade deficits and stuff like that. So you see the phenomenon of him advancing, retreating, seeing how much he can get away with. Well, the reason, or he'll say that it's treasonous to talk about how he's in bad physical shape. So the reason why I'm starting with that is this says a lot about the psychology behind people who are MAGA. It really does. Where they will advance and retreat, and it leads to this kind of trolling that really takes a toll on our public discourse. And let me just also say for a second here, if you are attempting to get my attention in the comments here, don't. I'm not playing your game. I'm not going to respond to people that are purposely trying to troll or be obnoxious. Sorry, don't waste your breath. Minding your own business is free. Go step on a Lego, go hug a cactus, okay? I am not the person that you want to argue with. And in fact, I would encourage that maybe you actually shut up and listen for a second, because then you might understand the concepts behind why you're so motivated to be obnoxious, hiding behind a screen. See, this is the exact kind of stuff that I'm trying to talk about as bad, and we need to not do it. So, anyway. So, going forward, this kind of trolling, joking also ties it to gaslighting, which I think is one of the words of the year, just in general. It's a form of emotional manipulation designed to make the victim doubt their own judgment. And this also ties into the idea of, Trump joking. Remember when he said that maybe some people would like if I was actually a dictator. Some people say it might be good. I wish I had that graphic of the Truth Social post where he said that, where people would say, oh, he's just joking, he's just trying to be funny, No, what he's trying to do is manufacture some doubt as maybe it's better if we have Trump be an authoritarian dictator. Maybe it's better if we just don't have elections. Recently, Trump joked about getting rid of elections. And his press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, was trying to cover up, saying, he was simply joking, guys. He was simply joking. Just trust me, bro. He was joking. So you see how there's this advance and retreat kind of aspect in regards to trolling. This happens a lot amongst the right, where they will say the most outlandish, presidential thing that's supposed to be nasty and provocative, then skirt accountability by claiming that they're just joking. They're just joking. You can't take a joke. You weren't there. You don't understand it. And what it does is it leads to an erosion of our online discourse, where what happens is it pacifies in some way the public to then be okay with those things. You're manufacturing doubt as, well, maybe it would be good to get rid of all elections. If the shoe was on the other foot and this was another person of a different political party, I'm a Democrat, so let's say this was a member of the Democratic Party, I would be just as furious, if not more, with it being a part of my own party. Because this is the thing, it's about the phenomenon itself, not about it being like, oh, it's a part of another party. You see what I mean? So it's about the problem itself. So going back to the example, Trump said that he was simply joking about canceling the election. And this turned into a heated exchange between Caroline Leavitt and Andrew Feinberg of The Independent, the White House correspondent for The Independent. And of course, Leavitt is like, the president was simply joking. He was saying that we're doing such a great job that, we are doing everything the American people thought, and maybe we should just keep rolling. He said, well, when you think of it, maybe we shouldn't even have an election because we've accomplished so much. Like, that first off, in my view, you can disagree, is incredibly rude to, like, all Americans. It really is, because you're saying that you think it's okay to just take away the conduit in which people voice their rights, like voice their opinions on who should be in leadership. That takes away even MAGA's right to vote, which, of course, you're going to clap like seals because you think that somehow trolling is more important than online discourse and democracy. But I digress. And of course, she's now being like, were you in the room? Were you in the room when he said it? No, you weren't. He was being facetious. Except he's not. He's very serious about trying to cancel elections. Do you think that somehow he wouldn't be? And this also creates this conundrum of, okay, when is Trump being serious versus when is Trump joking? And what that does is, for a leader of our country, regardless of political affiliation, For a leader of our country, it is dangerous of us as the constituents or members of that country to have a leader that you can't tell when they're being serious or joking. Because what that does is it manufactures doubt. And when doubt is manufactured, uncertainty, and then an opportunity for people like Trump that has authoritarian tendencies to skirt in and erode people's civil liberties, civil rights, and overall democracy and discourse. For everyone, not just liberals or the woke left. It erodes all public discourse. And attached with that, when you add in bots and AI that amplify that kind of rhetoric, it leads to an erosion of our entire public discourse. And that's really dangerous. That's really dangerous as a country for that to happen. So this example, you can see here, this is the exchange where at a fiery press conference, Levitt clashed with multiple reporters, including the Independent's White House correspondent, Andrew Feinberg, who followed up saying that Trump was only joking. Guys, he was only joking. And Andrew Feinberg said, okay, so you said he was joking about canceling elections, but Americans for generations have fought and died for democracy. Factually just true. For this democracy, are you saying that the president finds the idea of canceling elections funny? And of course, Caroline Levitt was like, Andrew, were you in the room? No, you weren't. I was in the room, okay? I heard the conversation. And only someone like you could take that so seriously and pose a question in that way. Like, girl, is your response, just trust me, bro, he was joking. That is outlandish in my view for a press secretary to then claim that that's somehow a defense. So I think I've outlined the phenomenon of when people say, oh, they're just joking as a way to skirt accountability. I think you all understand that by now. Make sure to tap the screen if you're enjoying the live. Let's go on a little bit more because this gets into also a defense mechanism. When someone is like a schoolyard bully and then they say, I'm only joking, as a way to skirt accountability, it's also a really good defense mechanism to, I guess, attempt to de-escalate the situation. There is this immediate knee-jerk reaction amongst the American public that whenever someone says, oh, I'm just joking, you give them the benefit of the doubt. Except, here's the thing. I don't think that we should give that out willingly anymore. And I'm actually someone who loves comedy. I actually go to improv classes on Thursday night. I love comedy. This is not bashing that. What it is important to understand is there is a difference between cruelty and comedy. There are people who are insult comics where you're supposed to laugh with them about trying to like poke fun at someone, not laughing at someone else. And that's what Trump does. He will say, oh, I'm just joking, just trying to be funny. He has a whole Wikipedia page based on nicknames he's given to people. Do you think he's joking when he does those nicknames? No. And it's dangerous when you have someone that doesn't understand trying to put in a threshold of when they're being serious versus when they're joking. And let me also just call it out as it is. The reason why MAGA loves what Trump does so much is because he causes these liberal tears, as they call it, which is when anyone who is not MAGA talks about this being a problem. They're like, you're crying about it. Yeah, but it's a lot like this metaphor. It's a lot like this one metaphor. Let me show you real quick, okay? We are all in the same boat of America together. All right, just follow me for a second. We're all in the same boat of America together. It's a lot like this, okay? So there's these two guys in a boat, and there's this one guy that has a gun, and he just shoots the boat, okay? And this guy's like, what are you doing? Sinking your libtard boat. This is exactly what MAGA is doing to our country. We're all in the same boat together. We have the same, hypothetically, the same freedoms and rights, liberties under our Constitution. We all are people existing in America, period. What this is doing is MAGA is like welcoming in Trump like some sort of amazing person, but what he does is manufactures doubt and jokes about taking away the rights even from his own supporters. So it's like, what are you doing? Sinking your libtard boat. It's like, oh, I'm gonna do this thing where it sabotages both of us just to make you upset. Just to make you upset. And what this really does show is this is the exact moment we're in right now. We're both in the boat, you idiot. And then it's like, you're so triggered. You're so triggered. This is what trolls do. They don't mind if somehow they also go down or they suffer a certain fate. They are being sadistic and fostering sophistry where they are taking pleasure in other people's pain. This kind of cultural phenomenon has been brought about by people like Trump. The whole cultural phenomenon of MAGA, where it's all about politics of personal grievance. Period. And what this eventually will do, if we don't stop it now, is it turns into this. It turns into this. And this is what MAGA does. Go cry about it. You have boat derangement syndrome. It's just a joke. It's just a joke. And it turns into this. All of this is a culmination to say that what MAGA is doing and the psychology behind it is really dangerous in regards to public discourse. But then on top of that, when you add in AI and bots, it makes it so much more dangerous. Because there are people, one person can program 900 robots to spam out and say crap. To say crap. You see it all the time in my live streams. Sometimes 90% of the comments are taken up by only 9 people, but those 9 people can sometimes be a bot, where they're programmed to just crank out stuff that's being obnoxious, hyperbolic, drama-seeking, and provocative. Not collaborative, not fostering a good public discourse, and instead trying to poke fun or say that they're joking or just be obnoxious and then be like, oh, it's just a joke, you can't take a joke, as a way to skirt accountability. This kind of behavior has been fostered and popularized by Trump and by MAGA. And what it has done is it's led to an erosion of our public discourse to the point where it's basically leaking as poison into our entire online platform, our entire online discourse. Do y'all understand what I mean? If you understand what I mean, say yes or no in the chat. Just say yes or no in the chat. And if you're enjoying the live, please make sure to send some likes. It really does help out the algorithm. It really, really does. So, continuing on here with some of this, it also highlights sometimes the cognitive dissonance. When I'll point these things out, or when someone says, oh, he's just joking, he didn't say that, and if he did, he didn't mean that, if he did, you just don't understand it, and if you did, it's just not a big deal, and if it is, then others have said worse. The rationalizing behind that as well is noteworthy. So I see some people saying no in here. Cool. Just listen, then you will understand. Just listen and you will understand. So, and shout out to my amazing moderators for keeping the whole live stream civil. So let's talk about liberal tears. You all know the whole idea behind MAGA and liberal tears. I asked Grok, I said, hey, do liberal tears play into the motivations of MAGA and Trump supporters? Yes. The idea of liberal tears is a meme and a rhetorical jab used by some MAGA and probably some people in the chat here and Trump supporters to express defiance or satisfaction at perceived liberal distress. Pause. If you are someone that takes pleasure in someone else's pain, that disgusts me to my core. Y'all, we are humans, whether you are religious or not, called upon to be good to each other. We are called upon to foster common good, collaborate, move forward together in so many ways. If you're someone that takes excessive amounts of pleasure at perceived other people's pain, then sorry, but you're just an asshole and you need to stop. Period. And it happens online as well. And people sometimes feel like they can go that level because they're hiding behind a screen Or they're hiding behind an online persona without a face or any description, and they're just trying to comment and rage bait. And then what gets me is some of those people sometimes have the audacity to claim that they're somehow morally superior because they are religious and believe in Jesus. As someone who comes from a religious family, I find that incredibly blasphemous. That Jesus is shaking his head at you. All of that being said, what this leads to is this idea of people profiting or benefiting off of other people's pain. And I find it so sick that this has happened within our political discourse. Now, you might be someone that says, oh, this happens on both sides of the aisle because there are also Democrats or liberals that love seeing MAGA tears. I'm not going to deny that. I'm not going to deny that that exists as a concept. But I also need you to understand that if you participate in the excessive both sidesism, as both sides are equally doing this, I need you to have a massive wake-up call, because that is completely blasphemous for you to assert. It is not that Democrats are doing this to that extent. I'm not going to deny that they do. I don't think that it's helpful to really go that route excessively. There's one thing to relish in like bad karma or instant karma videos. But you see, when it's excessive amounts of profiting off of other people's pain in regards to a political context, that is really, really dangerous. And just as humans, we're called upon to be empathetic and caring and loving, not fearful of other people's differences. Embrace them as a cultural fabric that benefits us all. So the idea that MAGA has popularized this whole idea of liberal tears really, really scares me, to the point where this needs to be fought against. So let me read on here and make sure to send some links. The idea of liberal tears is a meme and a rhetorical job used by some MAGA and Trump supporters to express defiance or satisfaction at perceived liberal distress over conservative victories or policies. It's rooted in the broader culture war, where political wins are sometimes framed as zero-sum triumphs. That's also a thing. A lot of people always are like us versus them. Are you in my group or are you in my out group? Are you a part of my community or are you a part of the opposition? And this also intertwines with team sports. The idea of team sports, where are you team red or are you team blue? I'm going to wear my jersey. I'm going to be incredibly loyal to my team no matter what, even if my team is in the wrong. Now, me, personally, you can disagree. I think if your team is in the wrong in so many ways and continues to be in the wrong, you don't need to constantly defend that team. I am generally a progressive Democrat. I am one of these Bernie bro type people. Though when the Democratic Party starts fucking up, I'm like, y'all, you need to stop. You need to stop. Don't be afraid to call out your own in that sense. And when it comes to liberal tears, they're always basing it off of like a zero-sum game. I benefit, you lose kind of thing. Whereas the reality is way more of a gray area. This idea that, oh, there are winners and losers is so parochial in a sense. And we need to not do that. So for some supporters, it's less about policy specifics and more about emotional high of owning the libs. For people in here that are constantly spamming and trolling, this is for you. If you enjoy trying to get some sort of perceived satisfaction or benefit off of trolling someone else, then sorry, you need to stop. And look, if you want our discourse to change, you need to be a part of the change in that discourse. Sorry, you just do, okay? And basically owning the libs, it's a reaction of feeling culturally or politically marginalized in prior years. Like, oh, we are somehow put down, so we have to own the libs. So this whole thing has become very prolific in our discourse. Continuing on here, it also intertwines with the idea of the politics of personal grievance. So what can you tell me about a politics of personal grievance in MAGA? Have you all heard of the idea of politics of personal grievance? Say yes or no in the chat. Have you heard of the politics of personal grievance? This plays a lot within MAGA in particular. This also, you can connect it to what's happened with Nicki Minaj. You can also connect it to what's happened with the pivots from people who used to call out MAGA and now are a part of it. So the politics of personal grievance and the MAGA movement are also intertwined concepts in contemporary American political discourse, often associated with the rhetoric and ideology of Donald Trump. Here's an overview based on the available context and analyses. So, politics of personal grievance refers to a political style or strategy where individuals or groups frame their political engagement around feelings of being wronged, marginalized, or unfairly treated by societal institutions, elites, or other groups. This approach often emphasizes emotional appeals, focusing on perceived injustices, resentment, or loss of status, rather than solely policy-driven arguments. The way that MAGA has been able to tap into it is like, oh, white people are now oppressed. White people are now somehow being oppressed when you talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, or when you talk about empowering all people. It doesn't just mean white people anymore. So there's this idea of the politics of personal grievance, of fighting against that. It can mobilize supporters by tapping into their frustrations, fostering a shared sense of victimhood. This also happened a lot with people who are anti-vaxxers or anti-maskers, or somehow they form community around being a victim of something. And you could say, oh, well, that's not just amongst the right wing. You could say that could be also, you could say that's also a part of being a Democrat. You could be like, oh, a shared victimhood around it. I'm not going to deny that. But I also need people to understand the idea of like constant amounts of resentment or loss of status. If you're a marginalized group, in many ways, you never had the status to begin with. So it's not a loss of status there. You get what I mean? So, and you're also, if you participate in the politics of personal grievance, you're also directing anger toward designated enemies, such as political opponents, media, or minority groups. So you have a designated enemy instead of advocating for policy changes or a change in the way that you go about discourse. So you're obviously, in that sense, with personal grievance, you're trying to put them, there's like a certain enemy, you know, there's an enemy. And I really want people to understand that, like, as soon as we all start to realize that the enemy is us acting upon bad actions and being better people, or just the people who popularize these concepts, I need us to just be better. So anyway, continuing onward here, the politics of personal grievance often goes with an emotional appeal. It leverages feelings of anger, fear, or loss to galvanize support, often prioritizing effective engagement over detailed policy proposals. This is where people get into talking about how MAGA is not like a whole thing of policy outcomes or policies. Being a part of MAGA is a cult of personality. It's based on the idea of personal grievance. There was one video that I ended up doing, and you can go and watch it on my videos tab. There was one woman, and you all might remember, did you all see the video with the mental health counselor who somehow was rationalizing and decided to then not vote for Kamala Harris? Because people were saying, yeah, well, you know, she's all about, you know, these things. Go and watch the video. I'm not describing it well. But she was talking about how she wasn't being valued as like diversity of thought. And she was like, you're not very tolerant. You're not very tolerant of someone who is trying to disagree with you. Do you all remember that video? It's the trauma counselor MAGA video that I had. Go and check it out. And she was talking about how, like, oh, you know, liberals are not tolerant. We're not tolerant of diversity of thought. It's like, okay, well, pause. What is your diversity of thought? If your diversity of thought is being on the side of MAGA, which is all about personal grievance, then sorry, but tolerating intolerance goes against the entire idea behind tolerance. And this is where personal grievance comes in, because she was like, I'm not being valued, so I'm going to be spiteful and vote against that. Vote against that. So I encourage you to go and check out that video, because I highlight some of those things, a part of the psychology behind people who find themselves to be MAGA. It also gets into this us versus them mentality. Look, we're all in this together. Regardless of our identities, regardless of our differences can somehow be our strengths. You know, we're all human when it comes down to it, I hope. And we want to also recognize, you know, and celebrate the differences, celebrate that diversity, but also recognize what brings us together too. And with MAGA, it's all about differences. It's all about, you're not a part of my in-group. You can see how a lot of people amongst the left in general are all very different. They're kind of a group of outcasts, you could even say. But they celebrate the things that make them that make them a big tent. A part of the liberal or left or woke, however you want to call it, there are the liberal wine moms, the white women that drink with their girlies and talk about the craziness. There's also the people of color who fought for voting rights and whose families were oppressed. You also have the person at Starbucks that has a nose ring, goes by Kiki, and uses they, them pronouns, and blue hair. It includes a lot of people. And MAGA likes to pit as like us versus them. They're very team sports oriented instead of policy oriented. Now, I'm not going to deny that there are liberals who can foster or go into that team sports kind of thing. I'm not saying that it's exclusive. But you see this us versus them mentality so much amongst the right, because they're always trying to troll or find ways to do like liberal tiers. Wow, liberal wine mom. Now you know what I mean? It's a group of people. So continuing onward here, it's also a whole thing about narrative of loss. It often invokes a nostalgic yearning for past era when things were better for the aggrieved group. And there are all these people that are now being like, oh, well, we can't say certain words anymore. Or we can't believe certain things anymore. We can't recognize certain things anymore. It's not the same as it used to be. You all know those exact things. When Trump said, make America great again, he was also tapping into that nostalgia. Now, nostalgia is very strong. I can say that nostalgia in general is very strong. Sometimes I'll think about the past, in my past in college, or past things that, oh, I could have done this differently. I wonder how it would have turned out. Nostalgia is a very powerful force psychologically. And so it often intertwines with politics in a sense, because if you can tap into when someone thought it was better for them, then they might be motivated to vote for you more. So there are a lot of people who felt nostalgic about the progress that we made for certain groups of people, for LGBTQ people, people of color, or women, and they aren't a part of that group, or they didn't associate themselves as part of that group. So they felt nostalgic when that was tapped into, and they said, oh, well, I'm going to vote for when I thought it was good for me. For me. For me. Me. You see what I mean? The thing is, I want all of us in this country to focus on the collective good. There's this idea that, and this is actually a personal thing about me. When I was growing up, I was actually a super conservative Christian Southern boy. Seriously, I was raised that way. I'm from North Carolina. I grew up in a very Christian conservative Southern family. I was low-key almost raised to be an altar boy. That kind of thing. And my oldest brother, he had a conversation with me when I was still in high school, and I was like the Sean Hannity kid. Trust me, I was, because I never was given the empowerment to think critically for myself. I was always told what to think. And so my brother and I had a conversation about voting, and he was talking about how we need to vote for the collective good for all people. And I said, well, don't you think that if everyone just votes for what benefits themselves, that's the best way to vote for the collective good? He goes, what do you mean? What do you mean? I said, well, think about it. If I vote for what's best for me and you vote for what's best for you, doesn't it all like make sense and equal out and, you know, make everything completely representative? He goes, you're asserting that everyone has the equal access and rights to vote, or there's no barriers to that. I said, well, are there barriers to it? He goes, yeah. There are people who work long hours and sometimes don't even get a chance to vote. Or maybe they just recently moved, or they're not, or sometimes they refused being able to vote because the polling lines are so long or whatever. So I was like, well, can't they just do this? He goes, yeah, I understand what you're talking about, but you seem to only care about what benefits you, not what benefits everyone. And he kind of said it in a way, I said, yeah, I guess I do sound like that. I said, but don't you think that if everyone just focuses on what's best for them, then we can have a society that's reflective of everyone? And he goes, yeah, but my question is, why don't you care about what happens with other people as well? I said, well, it's not that I don't care. He goes, but isn't it? Because you're only voting on things that benefit you. And I was like, why are you insulting me? He goes, I'm not insulting you. I'm just sharing what you are doing. And it really hit me in that moment. It really hit me that I didn't care about the collective good if I only voted for things that benefit me. For instance, when there are things that happen in society that I see are wrong, I could be incredibly narcissistic and say, well, does it benefit or hurt me? Filter it out that way and decide to either care or not care about it. And the thing is, I would really hope that we all have at least some baseline amount of empathy, which is the opposite of MAGA, by the way, to really think about things that benefit everyone and the collective good. So this is also another thing. Let's go back to that. Let's go back to this picture here. Let's say that this guy who shoots the boat to sink it says, well, it's beneficial for me to shoot the boat because I love shooting guns. It's beneficial for me. Well, it hurts this other person. So you could say, well, it's beneficial for me, I'm gonna do it. Right, but you might not realize it also hurts you. If you're so inwardly always so narcissistic, it can also very much hurt you. And this is what we are seeing within this culture as well. A lot of people who are MAGA don't seem to care about the collective good, so much so that they installed Trump to be our president in the last election. But they don't even realize that Trump's trying to take away their voting rights as well, because he jokes about not wanting to even have elections for the midterms. He jokes about it. He's being serious. If he wasn't serious, he would not go and raid the Fulton County elections office in Georgia. He's absolutely serious. But going into it, there's not this shared sense of community. And also, if someone said, no, he won. Yeah, he won. I'm not discounting, like, oh my God. You people, I can't help if you have the inability to listen. Bless your heart. But you see what I mean? That there's like this rejection of the common good. This is also very prolific amongst MAGA as well. And I want to get to another thing. So we're talking a lot about trolls, trolling behavior, all of that stuff. It also intertwines with bots. Are you all familiar with just the general idea of bots? Robots that are prolific amongst our American political discourse, particularly online. Let me show you something. Hold on just a second. Let me show you something. Have you all seen what a bot farm looks like? I want to show you what a bot farm actually looks like. And this is This intertwines with MAGA and the psychology behind it, because there are a lot of people who are far right-wing programmers that program tremendous amounts of bots. So what this is, a bot farm is when you have all of these phones being controlled by one person. We'll talk about how bot farms make money, what's the purpose behind it. We'll get to that. This is what it looks like. Bot farms have like so many different phones, given so many different prompts. And what they do is they spam and prolifically just pollute online discourse. This is what it looks like. One person controlling the prompts for all of these phones. All of them. So when you're arguing with people online, sometimes it's literally just this. One person behind all of this. Now, I've pointed out in the past that this actually has big ramifications for democracy because it creates an illusion of support for something. And it could go so many different directions. It could be illusions of support for a progressive or a liberal idea or a conservative idea. I'm not discounting that. What this, in a sense, does is it creates this false impression around the temperature of the public on something. So sometimes when you're bantering with people over the internet, it can be this. And this has real world consequences because it's one person's speech being amplified so much more than another person's speech. And in this country, we have freedom of speech, but also, are bots going to be considered people in the future? How does that work? Because if you have one person's speech so much louder than another person's, it can hurt democracy in general. The same way that super PACs or billionaires spending massive amounts of money on elections, where the Supreme Court has said that money equals speech in Citizens United and the Speech Now versus the Federal Elections Commission, you've basically had money equaling speech. So now do bots equal speech? You can see how that becomes a problem. It connects with the psychology behind MAGA and trolling because a lot of these bots, a lot of these programmers are far right-wing programmers that spew out this crap. You see it all the time. You see it all the time in my live streams. These people that are commenting, trying to be obnoxious, divert the conversation, you know exactly who you are. And it connects in here because a lot of bots are programmed by right-wing people. So I asked Grok, I said, how do foreign bot farms targeting Americans through political means, how do they make money? So this also ties in really well with the psychology behind MAGA. And these bot farms, you know exactly the kind of like people that I'm talking about. You go into a political live stream or you go anywhere on an internet space and you see endless amounts of bots. Now, it's not certain that some of them are actual people, some of them could be bots. I'm saying that they exist. And there are a lot of far right-wing content creators that will program bots to help themselves or program to help in general. How do they make money? Well, paid contracts. Foreign bot farms that target Americans with political content primarily make money through the following business models. Paid contracts from political clients, which is the most common, domestic US contracts, political campaigns, super PACs, activist groups, wealthy donors, hire bot farms often through layers of intermediaries to amplify their candidate or attack opponents. These are frequently structured as digital marketing or social media management contracts to maintain plausible deniability. Now, this isn't just upon the right wing. Like, this happens on both sides of the aisle. I'm not going to deny that. But let me also be very clear. For anyone that's like, oh, well, both sides, excessive both sidesism is a cop-out for holding the right wing accountable because they do this at such a traumatic and huge extent that it's laughable to do a comparison. It's laughable to then claim it's both sides equally. So These bot farms often amplify divisive content. And also foreign governments, Russia, Iran, China, and others fund influence operations designed to specifically impact Americans. These bot farms are designed to try and infiltrate American political thought. If you think that somehow other countries are not, you're like, oh, other countries aren't doing that. Really? Really? Because I encourage that you go and check out all the ways that the Russian state has actually been held accountable for foreign bot operations targeting Americans. This is also part of the reason why they were so fearful about China and TikTok. Now, I don't think that that was as much of a valid fear. That's just me personally. But these foreign governments, Russia, Iran, China, and others, fund influence operations as a form of statecraft. The bot farms are either state-owned, like Russia's Internet Research Agency, or private companies that receive government contracts or subsidiaries. The goal is geopolitical influence, not direct profit, but the operators are paid salaries and contracts. So, in addition to all of this, there's multitudes where this trolling behavior is prolific amongst people, but it's also fostered amongst bots. Let me give you an example of how it's fostered amongst people. Over the summer, I was doing one of these live streams, and there was this one instance where this one dude really did not like me. And he found my Venmo through the link tree and requested money from me to try, because I ended up muting him in the chat because he was being obnoxious. And he ended up spamming, requesting money from me. See, this is just stupid. It's stupid. Like, why do you feel like you have to go and do that? And this guy would not stop. It kept going on and on. And so, this kind of stuff, obviously that's a real person, not a bot. But also, sometimes it can be indistinguishable between whether it's a person or whether it's a bot. Because now people are functioning as them in a sense. And also, let me point out, you can buy bots. You can buy them. And do you think that people have their own self-control to say, you know what, I can grow as a content creator without bots? There are people who say, no, I'm going to do it. Notably, more sophisticated sub-bots employ more advanced technologies like YouTube proxies to avoid detection by YouTube's algorithm. Subscriber bots users also try mimicking the behavior of human viewer by watching videos, liking content, leaving comments. So we have these bots even for sale. People program a bot or bots that you can buy. Let me even show you. You can buy on this V6 proxies, you can buy 3,500 IP V6 proxy bots. You can buy the bronze. You can buy the silver. People buy these bots to amplify their own content. And often these bots also exhibit the same psychology that MAGA does, based on policies of personal grievance. Or you could do it the other way around, where you're benefiting your own content instead of trying to tear down someone else's. So all of this culminated makes this moment in American politics really, really fragile and also kind of dangerous. Because what it is doing is the internet has become such a wild west to the point where, and it always been, but it's really amplified, but it's also really mixed in with the way that we interact and communicate with each other. And in regards to a political context where somehow we are amplifying and endorsing some of the worst parts of human psychology through sadism, through sophistry, taking pleasure off of other people's pain in regards to the politics of personal grievance, it can become really messy. So I wanted to highlight all of that today. I know it was a little bit all over the place. I'm still going to be live for a couple more minutes, but I hope that this has been really, really helpful in a sense. And I kind of also want to do a poll really quickly. I also want to hear some feedback. Did you all enjoy this kind of content? Because I think it's important for us to cover it. It also goes back into with Trump's behavior. Trump's behavior, saying that he's joking about elections. Oh, I'm just joking about canceling elections. I'm just joking about it. Just joking about it. But it's like, no, you're not joking about it. You're not. Like, if you were joking about it, you wouldn't motivate your supporters to the point to storm the Capitol. So there are people who operate based on politics of personal grievance. And those people are often very much a part of MAGA. Anyway, I need to take a sip of coffee, hold on. But all of this is to say, this moment's really, really dangerous, and I'm calling on all of us to be better. Foster empathy. Care about not just what affects you, but affects everyone. I promise it will actually be really rewarding to not just be so narcissistic about it. Also, if you know anyone that's like, they say something outlandish or gross or mean and then say, I'm only joking, clock them on it. Be like, no, you are not joking. You're being obnoxious and rude for the purpose of being mean. Don't do that. Like, we deserve better as a country than for people to do that kind of crap. We really do. So, where was it? Hold on a second. I think I went through everything I wanted to cover. I covered a lot of stuff, y'all. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Well, I appreciate every single one of you. I'm going to skedaddle. I'm going to get going because I need to get to work. But I appreciate every single one of you. You all are amazing. Even if you don't like me. Seriously, like, I care about everyone, even if you don't like me. So I encourage you to go check out my content. I appreciate every single one of you. So, yeah, thank you. Shout out to my moderators in here. Y'all are incredible. Did I miss anyone? Did I miss any super chats or anything? Scott is very well informed. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate trying to keep it constructive. Yeah, you bet. Yeah, I'm glad that part of my content was helpful today. I know I was a little all over the place, but my goal in these live streams, since it seems to be a little bit more family now in here, is to not feed people who are being obnoxious. And like, if you're still in here, you know exactly who you are. I want us to be better. And it starts with also acknowledging where this behavior came from. This behavior came from Trump. It has been popularized because of him. The reason why we see so much negativity and trolling now in America is because Trump has popularized that. MAGA has popularized the idea of trolling and being obnoxious. Politics didn't used to be this divisive. It didn't. Remember back in like the Obama and Romney days? It didn't used to be this crazy. What changed? It's because people have decided to not care about what affects other people, and they only care about what affects them. There's a rejection of communalism or things of the common good. There's a rejection of being respectful in a sense, having constructive discourse. And I just really want us to get beyond this politics of personal grievance, profiting off of other people's pain, whether that's physical or emotional. And I want us to move on from all of this. You know, it's just, we need to be better. We need to call out the people who are fostering that kind of behavior. The next time that someone says something disgusting and then go, I'm just joking, clock them on it. Be like, no, you're not joking. You don't get the benefit of just being given the benefit of the doubt. Because no, we're not falling for that crap anymore. Anyway, I appreciate every single one of you. Y'all are incredible. So even if you don't like me, shout out to my amazing moderators. I have to continue on. I need to get ready for work. And I'm going to be posting a video here soon, kind of talking a little bit about all of that. But anyway, y'all are amazing. Just remember, shout out to my amazing moderators in here before I say that. Akicha, Kate, C-Bar, you're amazing. Jessica Woodard, you're awesome. Kels, you're incredible. Were there any of my other mods in here today? I appreciate all of you. Just remember that you are beautiful, you are loved, you are valid, you are strong, and you are fierce. Don't let anyone or anything ever, 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 ever dim your shine. I love all of you so much. Bye!